Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 2014 Endurance Summit. We've got a treat for you today. I have a really cool coach that I want you guys to know more about, because there's some really neat things going on in triathlon right now, but it's not in where you might think it is. It's actually with kids, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is kids triathlon. So I want to introduce you today to Coach Pam Nichol. She's the coach at Coach SBR. I believe that's the name of the site, SBR Coaching.
SBR Coaching. Mm-hmm.
And the actual website is octriathloncoach.com. But Pam actually, Pam has quite a history in triathlon. She's, oh my gosh, when did you start in triathlon anyway? How long have you been doing this?
Well, I started at the age of 37. I'm almost 55 now, so almost 18 years.
Awesome. And you've completed over 60 triathlons. You've done Ironman. You've done half Ironman. You're a national Olympic distance qualifier. You've been coaching since, 2006 or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
2005. Wow. So you've been around quite a while, and you seem obviously coached a lot of athletes, seen the changes in the sport, for the last, 10 years almost, plus that's just as a coach, and then before that as an athlete. But tell me what you're up to with kids triathlon, because that's kind of a new thing, and I know I had my son do one earlier this year, and it was phenomenally fun. He loved it. But what's up with kids triathlon? What's happening right now in triathlon with kids, and tell us more about that.
Well, youth triathlon and kids triathlons is just growing leaps and bounds. Kids are getting involved. What's happening is I'm seeing kids are seeing their parents do triathlons, and vice versa. I've got an awesome family that started with the mom and the daughter, training them for a super sprint here locally in the Crystal Cove area and Pacific Coast, and then Dad came on board, and so it's a family event. It's exciting that everyone can do it together. It's different than the typical sports. The parents are sitting on the sidelines watching their kids play soccer or basketball or any other kind of group sport. This is fun as a family, and it's encouraging healthy living and fitness for life, basically. That's what my goal is as a coach, is to create an enthusiasm for sport that you can do the rest of your life. I mean, I've got 70-year-old clients doing it. So it's an awesome, exciting, fun time right now for coaches.
And I really like what you said about, and I get, because I've been to races where, the parents and the children are crossing the finish line together, and how exciting is that? I also get, because I have young kids and they are in sports, how, I go to the field and there'll be parents sitting around, and they're, and this isn't to denigrate people who are overweight, but they're out of shape, they're overweight. And when you talk to them, they're overwhelmed, and they tell you, I don't have any time to exercise and this and that. And honestly, just to throw this out there, when I was training for Ironman, I didn't have time either. So I would drop my kid off at practice, and then I'd do runs or whatever around the field sometimes so I could be there. But if I didn't have that driver, I don't know that I would have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Being in sport too. And so I like what you're doing with, kids are doing it, parents are doing it, and everybody can do it together. You can travel to Hawaii and do a trip, or you can do a race, or locally, or.
Yep. There's just so many awesome races here locally in the Orange County and Los Angeles and San Diego area.
So how early do you think kids can get started?
Well, there's some races that they have peewee divisions with 3- and 4-year-olds where the parents and the kids do it together. And one local race, the Fountain Valley Tri, that's actually this weekend, is the peewee triathlon. The 3- and 5-year-olds, they run 100 yards, they bike 250 yards, some on big wheels. It's just so fun, and they swim 25 yards. And the parents are with them the entire time. So, I mean, it can be pretty young. Yeah, I work with kids ages 5 to 14. That's my age group. So, we can get started easily, at a very young age.
And this was something, and again, that's something that I noticed when I had my son doing a try, and I thought, maybe my daughter will see it and she'll do it again next time. And they had a Pee Wee division, and we watched, and then her buddy from preschool, she was in preschool at the time, was doing the Pee Wee race, and she saw her buddy doing it, and she was like, I want to race, And when I heard that, I was like, you know what? She could do it. Like, that would be fun. So, so I said, well, next time, we'll do it for sure, because it looked like, it was, like you said, like 100 yards, 250 yards, 25. And she could do that right now easily.
Yeah, your daughter could do a lot more than that. I've seen her run.
Probably, right. I know, right? I think she's got a runner's body, but, she needs somebody else to bring that out in her. So what do kids need to get started? What do you think, what do you see as like is there big impediments, for some families, or what are the challenges?
Not at all. Just a good pair of shoes, good pair of running shoes. Don't have to spend tons of money. A bike. You have to have a bike to do a triathlon. I recommend you don't borrow somebody else's bike that doesn't fit you properly. That's just a recipe for disaster. The kids aren't going to have fun. Don't buy a bike that's too big for them that they're going to grow into. It can, you can adjust the seat up and down, but and don't go out and buy a really expensive bike to start. We see this out there, and you don't need to do that. They can have a mountain bike. It can be a 1-speed. Just get them started, get them moving, get excited. And for the swim, all they need is some goggles and a cap for the girls that have longer hair. It's pretty minor amount of investment you need to make for getting started in triathlons.
So now once you've gotten started, what
a helmet.
kinds of...
Excuse me, one more thing, a helmet. They have to have
a helmet. That's right. Yeah, you can't get out of transition without a helmet.
They cannot go out and train with Coach Pam without a helmet ever.
That's right. That's right. So what kind of training do you recommend that the younger kids do then? Is there, do you telling the parents? Are you having the kids come out and train with you specifically, or do they do outside training? Like, what does a training plan look like for a child?
A training plan for a child, when I do clinics, and I work with some local racing companies in the clinics. I put together it's a 3-hour clinic. We go through all the different disciplines and transitions, and we do a practice try at the end. Then they walk away with a week or 2-week training plan for the specific triathlon that they're training for. Most triathlons are pretty short. The longest is usually about a 4-mile bike for the older kids, a mile run, and 175 yards swim in the pool. Most of them are reverse triathlons too, so that means that they run, bike, and then they swim at the end. The traditional triathlon is swim, bike, and run. They do have some of those for kids, but not as many as the reverse ones, because most of the time they're swimming in the pool. So, a typical training session, race, the week before the race, I would have them go out and run 15 minutes, bike, for a half hour, maybe do a little short 20-minute bike with a little 5-minute run afterwards or the run before, and then swim for like 5-10 minutes. So it's not a large amount. As they get older, I've had several kids as they've moved into teen years are now doing super sprints and sprint distances. It's important that kids don't get into the long distances right away because they have to be developed. As a USAT coach, it's very important we stick to the correct distances that are recommended by United States Association of Triathlon. They need to have gone through puberty and been developed before they get into longer distances for bone growth. So okay, and that's actually something I was going to bring up. Like what are, if there are any, I don't know if there are any specific criteria, but what kinds of things would tell you that a child is ready, say, to go to the next distance? If they're, they're going to the kids triathlons, that distance is becoming awfully easy for them. Typically, I'm starting to see that around a 13-year-old. I have one child I work with, and she's now moved into super sprint divisions, where she's swimming 200 to 400 yards, biking anywhere from 8 to 15, and then running 2 to 4. She's doing relays too with her family, where one of the parents, she'll do the swim, another parent will do the bike, and she'll do the run maybe. So I'm seeing that happening too, and she's able and capable of doing that because she's been training for about 6 to 9 months with me now, and she actually has been in some of my adult training classes. So it's maturity level, it's how they do with the training plans. It's best to start out conservatively always. I do that with my adults also, and before you get into longer distances. But I certainly, as a coach, would not be putting a teenager into an Olympic distance triathlon. No, a young preteen. Once they get to be 16, 17, we can go in that, more and more into that distance.
Yeah. So that actually brings up a question. What are the guidelines, the USCT guidelines, as far as, if there are any specific guidelines in terms of age and length of race?
Okay, man.
Are those written? Well, you mentioned
they're written on the UST guidelines. Yes, they are, and I just don't have those off the top of my head.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, if it's in general, I guess.
It's written.
How would you?
Yes.
So say at what point do you say a kid's ready to go into say a super sprint? Is it just going to vary by the child and their development?
Vary by the child and their development and their maturity level. Yeah.
So there's not necessarily a hard rule per se. It's more like you're really individual, and you're looking at the child and saying because there are outliers, right? There are some kids who are they have this natural ability and maybe extra maturity or something like that. Now, okay, so getting into the nitty gritty, one of the things that first of all, the short races are fun, so I could get that. You don't want to do longer ones until the short ones aren't fun anymore because they're so much fun. They're so exciting. I remember my first triathlon was a sprint, and it was the funnest thing I ever did. I mean, I wasn't very fast, and it was a struggle, but it was over quickly, and for sure with kids, they don't have that. You just haven't developed that gumption yet to really suffering isn't fun for them, whereas adults can get this twisted kind of, pleasure out of suffering through, a torturous race. But how do you train kids with the running aspect when you're going from say you're going to, from maybe whatever the short children's races are to a super sprint where you're doing maybe a 2 to 4 mile run? How do you coach the kids there? Because they seem, at least my son, he seems to run too fast and he gets tired quickly.
Right. So we we're not coaching with Megan and myself. She's my assistant coach. We work a lot on pacing. We talk about pacing. We practice the pacing in the running. We talk about warming up too. We correctly warm up prior to that. We do dynamic stretching. I do some running drills with high knees and butt kicks and things like that. And they learn from what they find out doesn't work too. Oh gosh, I can't go any further because I went out too fast. So then I'm going to go out slower. And then we work with them on that and teach about pacing, and they understand and know what pacing is. And so and we slowly build their endurance so they can run a mile. But we do walk-run ratios too. You can walk part of it. You don't have to run the whole mile or the whole half mile. So I encourage that and to listen to their bodies. So, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, the last clinic that we went to, I don't know how far you guys ran, but I was pretty surprised to see the kids running, some of them running the whole thing. And
right.
Yeah, and maybe it's because, when a
The
parent's there,
camaraderie.
yeah, when the parent's there versus when a coach is there, they're more likely to to not resist the parent and just go with what the coach says.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, they can run better than I thought.
Sometimes the parents need to leave a little bit, and then the kids will do more. It's really interesting. And so, but I never want to push a child beyond their
Right.
where they're at. And I like, as I do with my adults, I ease them into it. I have small milestones that they work towards, and then they continue to build upon those milestones. And, as I said, that's what I've been seeing with some of my kids I've been working with now about a year here. The one that's matured and gone on to, super sprints. And they have their workouts, they do them on their own, and they just like us as adults, they build their endurance.
Now, do you find that the kids that are training with you are solely focused on triathlon, or they play in other sports too and kind of doing it all?
Yeah, they do. A lot of them do a lot of. I have several that this is all they're doing, and the parents are excited because they didn't fit into the team environment. It didn't work for them in the sports they tried. I've got other kids that this is just one of many things they do, and it's a supplement and a cross training. One gal is a little girl's a huge swimmer. She's 9, and so this is something she's very excited about, and she's done pretty well in the couple of triathlons she's done. So it's a great use of cross training, and she also trained with her father too. So she did, training both the father and the daughter together. That's just been a blast doing that. So some kids use it as solely what they're doing, and other kids are using it as a supplement to what they're doing right now in cross training, and just to have fun and to just be focusing on themselves and their teammates in our club, and not worrying about sometimes there's a lot of pressure for kids in some of these group sports, and if they're just out there and it's all about just themselves and their own individual goals, sometimes it takes some pressure off of them.
That's huge. And just relating to my personal experience, I played team sports as a kid, and I was never really that. I wasn't one of the higher level players. Let's put it that way. And when I discovered triathlon, that's when I discovered my athleticism, because I had never done individual sports, but had enjoyed them, things like mountain biking, swimming and stuff, but never really kind of like did them competitively. But it's, what you said about some kids just not fitting into the team environment. And for me, it wasn't that I didn't fit into the team. It was that my body wasn't gifted in those ways, but in other ways, yes. So I think that's, that kids can discover that, and parents can discover that early on, is so, it's like they have so much ahead of them that's possible, You don't have to then possibly, by chance discover it as an adult. They have something they can do for their whole, like you said, their whole life.
Mm-hmm. And it builds such confidence in them. I've seen the confidence being built with kids that may be going through some things in their lives with parents' divorce and, mom's telling me, oh wow, I can't believe what he's doing now, and the confidence. And so, that's what I'm trying to instill in these kids, and realizing they, in their lives they can do anything they put their mind to it. Did I believe I could ever do an Ironman? No. When I started doing triathlons, but I did it. And you don't have to go on and be an Ironman to be successful. And anybody can do a triathlon. Any kid can do a triathlon. And what's awesome is, and you probably found out too, is that you don't have to be great at any one thing within the triathlon. If you are a little weaker maybe in the bike or the swim or the run, but you put all three together and you're pretty good at each of the disciplines, you can do really pretty well. And that's what I discovered when I first got into triathlons. I wasn't great at swimming, biking, or running, but I put all three together. I was fairly successful. So.
Yeah, now something that's kind of come up for me while you were talking is that like running races are cool and I enjoy them, and biking races the same thing, but the fun factor of a triathlon isn't there in just the individual events for me. And so, I was thinking about, I think I asked you this earlier, but I want to be a little more clear on this. Like, what are the challenges for the kids starting up? Is it the different events? Is it transitions? And for me, I think it's kind of like, especially when you do your first race, it's like this crazy thing that goes on. You do one and then you go into transition and you're kind of flailing about trying to, get ready for the next one, and you go out and you do it, and then you come back to transition, and again, it's like this, there's all these different parts and pieces, and it's somewhat complicated actually.
Yeah, right.
And that kind of makes it more fun.
Mhm. And of course, in our training, like this weekend, we're having a practice triathlon. We're going to practice all that, and we're going to put all three together. And I do all this in my clinics. I teach the kids how to transition from one to another. This weekend, we're actually going to be out in the open water, and I have wetsuits for all the little kids, and we swim along the shore. We don't go out. They can stand up at any point. And I teach them how to put their wetsuits on. I teach them how to take their wetsuits on. I teach them how to transition from one discipline to another, and we do the same thing with the pool, with the reverse tries. So they learn how to do that. So when I bring my kids to races, they know what they're doing because we've been practicing it. So that's the great part of being part of a triathlon club and also being coached by a triathlon coach.
Yeah, that's neat. I mean, I've done some coaching of my son, just myself, but going to the workshops and the group training and stuff, I think is inspiring in a different way because there's the group and also the coach, and it's more formal, and the kids tend to pay a little more attention, to what the coach is saying. But so I'm actually really excited. I just got to say this. I'm really excited to see now that kids triathlon is becoming such a big thing. In 10 years, what is the sport going to look like? Because right now it's kind of neat, but in 10 years when these kids are hitting, the ITU circuit and the longer distance circuit, that they're going to have some athletes that have trained from the beginning just in this sport. And I don't know if anything to say about that, but
the competition is going to get greater and greater in the younger and younger, the 13 to 15, 16 to 19 age category. The one thing that you want to look out for that you don't want to have happen is I've gone off to my conferences with USAT. I was in Colorado Springs at a conference and seeing a father pushing the kid more and more. He's a youngster, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to put them into burnout too early, and so you want to keep it fun because as adults too, we do triathlons because it's fun. If you get too serious about it, we don't have good races. We worry too much about who's there, who's our competition, and the key is we don't want to burn these kids out too soon. So let's focus on the fun and the fitness and less on the winning.
Yeah, and that's huge. So we're in Orange County, and this is like the prime. I mean, the weather is just so perfect. I imagine there are fair amount of events that are going on, but I'm not aware of them. What are some of the ones that you're aware of, and maybe what's a good way to find out about what events there are locally, wherever a person might be?
Yeah, there's a lot of events. I mean, there's one this weekend in Fountain Valley. The OC Triathlon has actually got an aquathon for kids coming up where they swim 200 yards and then they run a mile and a half. The YMCA in Newport Beach on June 14th is having a kids reverse tri. And then there's also the Pacific Coast Super Sprint Kids Triathlon. That's an ocean one where you got to be older. I don't put younger kids into that. That's my 13 and up kids that do that. Where that's like a super sprint, 150-yard swim, 6-mile bike, and a little over a mile run. So and there's a lot in San Diego too. I don't travel too far with my kids at this point, but there's a lot of races going on, and earlier in the year we had a great I Try triathlon in Laguna Niguel for the kids. And the race on the base is earlier in the year too, which is in February, and they have a great kids race too. So there's a lot out there in the Orange County area, that's for sure.
Now, how do you find out about these races? Because you named a bunch that I haven't heard of, and where do you go for info on that?
Well, you Google kids races, but you also can go to my website. I have my race calendar up on my Fit for Kids page. So if you go to my website, octriathloncoach.com, if you click on the Fit for Kids page, you're going to see the race calendar. Our workout schedule will be up there, and I also have a Facebook page, Fit for Kids Youth Triathlon Club Facebook page, where I post my schedule of our workouts, practices, and calendar of races.
Okay, so for the folks who aren't in the area, it sounds like Google is kind of their friend. Just Google, whatever your city is, kids triathlon. Yeah. Okay.
Their city
awesome.
or their county. Yep.
So for the local folks, I guess, and maybe you could also address this for folks that aren't local, what's the best way for them to get started? Like, if they're local, are there times when you have times where people can come and, say, stand in, or do they sign up for a workshop? What do they do?
Well, I have several different options here. I do clinics. That I'll put those up on the website. Some of those are coming up for specific races. The one in August, the I Try Triathlon in Irvine, I'll be having clinics to get kids ready for the race. I did so many clinics last year and had such a huge group of kids that I had a lot of parents saying to me, gosh, we don't want to just do the clinic. We want to keep training with you all year long. So I started the Fit for Kids Youth Triathlon Club and kickoff in January. And we train twice a month right now in different locations. And we bike, we run, we swim, run, we do combinations. We last week biked out by the Back Bay, and I was very excited. The kids did 4 miles. So as I said, their endurance is starting to get higher and higher. And so they can come out, they can join my Fit for Youth Triathlon Club. All the information how to join. It's an annual membership. You get 2 workouts a month, plus you get a great T-shirt and discount at any of my clinics. And you get to train with some great kids. And I have advisors too, Fit for Kid advisors.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And the season's just kind of getting revved up. So all that is available on your website, octriathloncoach.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And look for it on the Fit for Kids Youth Triathlon Club page. Just look at the Fit for Kids page. Click that on.
Awesome. So great. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Because I have young kids, I'm totally, I want my kids to experience the joy that I do with triathlons. And obviously they've got to try it out for themselves. And but to also be able to access a coaching group for kids, I think it's just phenomenal, and it just makes it that much more fun. So thank you so much for joining us today. And folks, for you guys out there, octriathloncoach.com. I'll put the links out with the link to the audio for this, along with I guess you have a Facebook page as well, and we'll link that out as well. So you'll know whatever you. Sure thing. Whatever you need to do to get in touch with Pam. So one last time, Pam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. I wouldn't do this without you, because Kids Triathlon is such a huge growth thing right now. And having trained with you and my kids and stuff, and they just had such a great time. So again, I appreciate that. And folks out there, thanks again for joining us. You know where to go. You've got the links down below, and go visit Pam. So this is Manny Aragon signing out for this version of the 2014 Endurance Summit.